Welcome back to the Always Thinking Mindset channel, where we give you positive vibes and simple rules to achieve your goals. Now, in today's video, we are going to hit on 3 things you need to know in order to get into law school. Now, before we begin, this is a disclaimer. I am not a professional, so please do your research and make your own decisions. Don't listen to a guy on the internet. And if you like today's video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. It does help the algorithm, and if you like the channel, go ahead and subscribe. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So the first rule we need to know when you apply to law school is that they give you what's called a personal statement. Now, the personal statement is pretty much an essay, kind of like an application, who you are, what accomplishments have you done. But at the same time, they want to know the story of you, right? Who is X applying to this law school? Why should we let you in? You got to understand, whenever you apply to a law school, it's a council. It's not just one person, it's a council making a decision, and they get thousands of applications. So they got to read through all these personal statements. Now, within the personal statement, you kind of sit there and say, your background and where you grew up, and did you play football? Did you play sports? And they want to know what kind of trophies, any accomplishments that you actually uh, obtained. But why should they ultimately pick you, right? That's the number one question, because they get so many applications, and at the end, it's basically storytelling. Who I am, why should I be in, and why I want to be a lawyer. Ultimately, like I said, the Law School Admissions Council sends you a letter in the mail and say, congratulations. But in order to cross that river, we have to go through these steps. Now, the second one is actually a big factor. It's the grade point average. So your GPA does matter. Everybody says that it doesn't matter. It does matter. So with the grade point average, it basically goes on your undergrad, wherever you went to, got your undergrad. Now, it also resonates. I've had people say that you have to major in such and such in order to get into law school. I've had a friend that majored in philosophy. It didn't even matter. I majored in political science, but at the same time, you got to understand they're looking for GPA, right? Grade point average. You don't have to be this top notch honor roll student. Well, it depends what law school you're getting in, such as an Ivy League law school. But at the same time, they want to, compare apples with apples, and they want to give everybody a chance because they understand grade point averages do matter. And it matters to the the academic strength of how your reasoning is going to be in law school, whether they should give you a chance, and whether if law school is actually a right fit for you. So your GPA does matter. Which brings me to my last rule, and this one's very, very important. It's the LSAT score, the law school admissions test score. It's basically, the range from 120 all the way to 180. And some say that if you even put your name down, you automatically get 120. But at the same time, you got to understand it's a very, very hard test because it's not a memory test. What does that mean? It means that you have to learn how to structure arguments, but at the same time, it's a lot of logic and analytical thinking. So in the LSAT test, you actually have four, but three they mostly focus on. One is not scored, usually reading comprehension. You're there, you're digesting a lot of material in so little time. So you're actually going through what you're reading, and then you're answering multiple choice questions of, do you understand what's going on? It's not a memory test, right? Because a lot of it's whether you can apply something in, whether a law or story, whatever. And at the same time, you have to learn how to uh, retain that knowledge. But which the second one would be a logic reasoning, also known as logic games. I sucked at this. I hate this. But there's a lot of people that love this, right? And it's pretty much games, right? Of you know, you have these boxes and 1 through 6, and they're missing 3 and 5. And if Debbie took the train and all this good stuff, but at the same time, it plays with your head, plays with your mind. And remember, all this is timed, because I always tell people that you can take the LSAT test and you can be super smart, but when you're in crunch time and your anxiety is high and you're not good at performing tests, then that matters, right? That's going to affect your score. But the third section is actually analytical reasoning, the same thing. they kind of go through the motion of asking you questions, and you're having to apply two different principles and try to make some sense of it logic wise, and it's multiple choice as well. And your fourth one, which is your LSAT essay, they tend to not use this as a score, but they just want to see your writing skills, right? Are you thinking like a lawyer? Can you write like a lawyer? Can you express and articulate yourself? And I remember taking this test and thinking to myself, man, why do I need to know this test in order to get into law school? Well, if it was that easy, that means anybody can get into law school. But at the end of the day, they rule you have to learn how to take that test and get a high LSAT score, which brings me to my next point. Depending on what law school you want to go, whether private, public, Ivy League, you got to understand law school is very, very expensive. So a lot of law schools actually try to filter out people that just are thinking about it. They know they want to be a lawyer. They will do anything to be a lawyer, but at the same time, they have to show an academic value, right? Because they don't want to waste not only your time but your money. Money is expensive to go to law school, but in the end, like I said, these are three major things that they always talk about that you need to know before applying to law school. And just an inside story, whenever I applied to law school, um, I was nervous, I was scared, I had nobody, I did a bunch of research, which I suggest you should do. And everybody goes through it, right? The motion of whether I'm going to get in, this is dumb, I don't want to do this no more, I'm going to take the LSAT test. And just a sidebar note here is that the LSAT is offered 4 times a year. They might have changed that, so don't quote me on that. But at the same time, if you missed the boat on one, you have to wait for another. I also want to give a tips that it depends on the jurisdiction or the state. I know California, it's unlimited. I don't know if that's changed or been updated, but some states won't even allow you to take more than X amount of number, right? They pretty much say that if you don't get a good score, you're not going to get into law school. So it's very competitive, and you got to do your research and be very strategic about getting into law school. Also, just another note is that whenever you're ready to take the LSAT, what you have to do is actually take it one time, right? That's the goal, one time. Because what happens is if you take it one time, you don't like your score, yeah, you can take it again. The thing is, when you take it your second time or your third time, they average those scores, and sometimes that actually hurts your LSAT score. So, in the end, study very hard, get serious about it, hopefully only knock it out with one punch. And at the same time, good luck on your venture. Well, like I said, that ends today's episode. If you like today's episode, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And I thank you for coming to this channel. And if you like this channel, go ahead and subscribe. And we shall talk later.